How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Zekko Football channel. Today we're looking towards the weekend and previewing Chelsea against Arsenal. If you're new to the channel, please make sure that you subscribe, you like the video, and you turn on those notifications. And without further ado, let's get into it. To begin, we're going to be having a look at the starting 11s, and because Chelsea are at home, we're going to start with them. I've got them lined up in their 4-3-3 formation. This can change and is flexible based on possession. However, we're going to stick with this 4-3-3. We've got Sanchez in goal, Cucurella out on this right-hand side because of Reece James still being injured, Disasi and Silva as the centre-back pairings, and Levi Colwill out on this left-hand side as the left-back. We have Moises Caicedo as the main central defensive midfielder. He's really starting to find himself in this Chelsea side, and I've been quite impressed with him over the last couple of games. Just in front of him, we've got Enzo Fernandez and Conor Gallagher, who himself has also done a very good job of establishing himself as a good workman-like player with some quality in this Chelsea setup. On the left-hand side, we've got Raheem Sterling, who has found a brilliant vein of form, and on the right-hand side, we have Cole Palmer, who has really started to get this Chelsea side ticking. Up in front of them, it was a toss-up for me between Broja and Jackson. I've gone with Jackson because of his power, his pace, and his ability to run in behind out of possession, and I just believe that his link up with Palmer and Sterling, based on the way that Arsenal are going to set up, I think this might be the more favourable striking option. But this is your Chelsea side. And now let's turn our attention to the Arsenal side, the side that will be visiting Stamford Bridge come Saturday. Of course, we have them set up in their 4-3-3 formation. This can obviously change based upon whether they are in possession or out of possession. We have David Raya in goal, who I believe is the main Arsenal goalkeeper now. Mikel Arteta can say all he wants, but his actions speak that little bit louder, and the fact that he's continuously picking Raya proves to everyone, I believe, that David Raya is the mainstay Arsenal number one, at least for the time being. We have Ben White out at right back, Saliba and Gabriel being the two main centre backs, and of course we have Alexander Zinchenko out at left back, who will then come into midfield once Arsenal are in possession. Thomas Partey I've set up in this side because I just would like to see Declan Rice moved a little bit further forward. His box-to-box ability would be better suited in a more forward-thinking role rather than having to lay low and play that central defensive midfield position, especially when Thomas Partey is so good at it. This allows Martin Odegaard to be that little bit further forward as well, and going up ahead, we've got Martinelli out on this left-hand side. The question mark still remains over Bukayo Saka, but I believe if there is a chance of him being fit, Arsenal need to play their best side, really. So Bukayo Saka, for me, comes into the starting lineups. Of course, fitness tests will be done late on, and then that means that Gabriel Jesus will move from the right-hand side, where he played against Man City, into this central striking position, dropping Eddie Nketiah, of course. And this is your Arsenal side. So how is the game going to play out? I actually think it's going to be very, very interesting. Both sides are interested in playing free-flowing, attacking football. Both sides have a positive outlook on how the game should be played. Chelsea are on a run of 3 games in a row with victories, and Arsenal have just beaten Manchester City by 1-0. So both sides should be full of confidence. When I look at Chelsea, I think about the way that Cole Palmer has integrated himself into the side, the runs from Conor Gallagher, who seemingly has boundless energy, and then you've got the clinical attacking nature of Raheem Sterling. I could even see a Mudryk coming in out on this left-hand side later on during the match. And then you've got Enzo Fernandez, the real highlight player for this Chelsea side, the player that really can dictate the way the game plays. Of an Arsenal point of view, I think that Thomas Partey is an absolute key player, allowing and unshackling Declan Rice to be able to move forwards. We've seen him for England, we've seen him for West Ham. He's able to drive forwards with and without the ball to pick up very good pockets of space. The return of Bukayo Saka is going to be something that is absolutely key, but make no mistake about it, Arsenal are still very, very dangerous even if he does not play. We've seen how much of an impact Gabriel Martinelli can play even at half, maybe 75% fitness, and then you've got Gabriel Jesus. Yes, he might not be the most clinical of players, but the way he gels this Arsenal side together is nothing short of brilliant. And of course, then you've got their main linchpin in Martin Odegaard. It's going to be fascinating to see, but let's start off with Arsenal. Arsenal, I believe, are going to have most of the possession. I think Chelsea are going to relinquish that because of the imposing nature of Arsenal, but also because I don't think Chelsea are set up to dominate the ball as much as Arsenal are currently. I'm looking at this battle between Martin Odegaard and Enzo Fernandez. Fernandez is not necessarily the most offensive-minded of players. That's not to say he's bad, but I just think that when Odegaard tries to pick up these pockets of space behind him, he's going to need to be switched on. And it's the role of Bukayo Saka here against Colwill that I think is going to drag Raheem Sterling back out to him, opening this space and opening this channel for Odegaard to just start picking up small pockets. His switch over to Martinelli is going to be something that is seen quite a bit, I believe. And then you've got the runs from Declan Rice. What does Conor Gallagher do in this scenario? Does he follow Declan Rice and then get pushed back towards his own penalty area? Or does he decide to try and press? Chelsea are actually one of the most impressive pressing sides in the Premier League this year. They are pressing a great deal, and that is down to their youth, that is down to their exuberance, but it's also down to Maurizio Pochettino, their manager. He is all about high energy, high octane pressing and making sure that Chelsea can make the most of the transitions that they create from their high pressing situations. But Arsenal are a very press resistant side, and it's actually this midfield quartet, once Zinchenko comes into midfield, that I actually think is going to be where the game is won and lost. Chelsea have a very good midfield three. I do have question marks about Conor Gallagher going forwards and as a general Chelsea midfield player. However, he started the life at Chelsea very, very well this season. But he's up against arguably the best, if not one of the best midfields in the Premier League. And like I said, it's this midfield quartet that I just think is going to have a little bit too much for Chelsea. It's then going to start to push them back. They're going to start to become quite oppressive, switching passes with Partey over to Saka and then switching over to Martinelli, allowing both of them to drive towards the byline. Of course, we have Saka and his ability to drift inside if they allow him to, and there is where the role of Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo is to really stop that from happening. Gabriel Jesus is going to try and pin himself onto the likes of Thiago Silva, and it's with all of this happening, all of this movement, that I just think might be a little bit too much for Chelsea, and they will concede a couple of goals for me. That being said, I do believe that Chelsea will have something up their sleeve, and it should or could look something like this. I've mentioned previously how important I believe that Enzo Fernandez is, and although a lot of Chelsea fans have wanted him to be further up the pitch, I agree, but I also think he needs to dictate play, and at the moment, for me, Moises Caicedo just is not that player. If Enzo drops a little bit deeper and then follows in on the pass following that, I believe that Chelsea could be that little bit better. It's then up to Martin Odegaard to try and find out where Enzo is and stop him. Bukayo Saka is not necessarily the most defensive-minded of players, and he might be thinking about the counter-attack that he could be getting on the other end. So if Enzo is given that space, watch for him to play these passes over to Cole Palmer, who will be looking for the runs from Conor Gallagher. Like I said, boundless energy, making sure that he is able to pick up these pockets of space ready for crosses, cutbacks, and even lofted passes towards Nicholas Jackson, who will be raring to go against this Arsenal back line. Saliba will have a tough time on his hands, make no mistake about it. Jackson is a handful, and it means that Thomas Partey is going to need to pick up some of those late decoy runs as well. Then we can have a look at one of the main duels for Chelsea, and I believe that is him up against Raheem Sterling up against Ben White, I should say. Ben White is not the fastest of players, but he's very good at positioning, and it's going to be down to him to stop Raheem Sterling from either going on the outside or cutting in through the middle, depending on the positions that Enzo Fernandez picks up. Like I said, it's going to be a fascinating game to watch. Both sides willing to play in a more positive, free-flowing nature, neither side really wanting to stifle the other, and then you've got the likes and the passes of Levi Colwill into midfield. If you can rifle it into the likes of Enzo Fernandez or even to Nicholas Jackson, allowing them to turn, it might just catch Arsenal off guard. But for me, I think this midfield quartet, when Arsenal are going forwards, if I just double back to that, I just think it's going to be a little bit too much for Chelsea to handle, so I can see Arsenal scoring a couple of goals. The play from Cole Palmer out on this right-hand side, where I believe that Chelsea are best, and also on Arsenal's left-hand side, where I think they're weakest. This partnership here between Gabriel and Zinchenko is definitely the weakest part of this Arsenal left-hand side, or this Arsenal side in general. Watch for them to really try to exploit that, and it's going to be down to Declan Rice to really shuffle back and play a more defensive role. Watch for him to sit next to Partey and allow him to really drift over to the right-hand side, moving to something of a 4-2-3-1, very much how they played against Manchester City. It worked out a treat for them, so it wouldn't surprise me if they were to do that once more. And again, the transitional counter-attack will be on with the pace of Martinelli, with the pace of Saka, and the pace of Gabriel Jesus. Chelsea have that option as well. They have the pace of Sterling, they have the pace of Cole Palmer, and they have the pace of Nicholas Jackson. It wouldn't surprise me to see Mykhailo Mudryk come in at some point later on in the match as well. So it's going to be extremely excited. I cannot wait to see how this game plays out. It's going to be very, very intriguing. Both sides in good veins of form, both sides in confidence, and I believe that it's going to be a cracking game. I can see Arsenal score. I can see Arsenal scoring around about 2, and then it's down to how well Chelsea and this Stamford Bridge crowd can build them, can get them together. I can see them scoring 1, but can I see them scoring 2? Perhaps. I think I'm going to settle for a draw. I think Chelsea will show what they're really made of. They've been growing as a side, and I just think that with the implementation of Enzo Fernandez, if he's able to be given that freer role that's licensed by Conor Gallagher making those runs, I think that Chelsea just might be able to surprise a few people. Arsenal are still in a brilliant vein of form, and they are a danger. However, I think that Chelsea at home just might be able to get something out of this game. It's going to be tough, it's going to be interesting, but it's going to be a cracker of a game. And my question to you is, what do you think the score is going to be? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, take care.